Good evening. The time is 6:30 and a quorum being present, I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda are meeting minutes, but we don't have any this week, so we can go straight to agenda item A. This is a request for certificate of compliance, Dominic Paul DiMaggio, 600 Woburn Street, Assessors Map 3, Lot 82, DEP file number 305-1106. Is there anybody here for it? Please come up and introduce yourself.
Good evening. Paul DiMaggio, Dominic Paul DiMaggio from Pepti Corp. I think it's listed under.
Yeah.
And let's see how. This is not my forte. But I just thought some things to enjoy.
Okay.
That's all probably relevant.
Thank you.
Maybe more, but we've basically finished the jobs. We got through the thing last time of that wetlands that we reconstructed. And so that one's all set. So what we have tonight, is this loud?
I think it's getting some.
Test?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm not sure what the procedure is from here. What we did set up for this was the first page on this is just the certificate of compliance from the engineer, which I assumed you needed. And then the original plan that was on file, and I think your files had a different, well, it had a different drainage document.
Okay.
That 279-page one. And Gene didn't come in with me tonight, so I don't know, exactly what your procedures are here. But so it shows the as-built on the third page. And then the operation and maintenance, which I think is what you would probably be looking for, is to what we're supposed to do and how do we do it. And so what we did here is in that, so it's page 4 and on, you'll see a few red marks in there. So after I got to going through what the engineer wants us to do or what the procedures are, we were finding ourselves not knowing exactly, well, which catch basin you're talking about. What is this referred to? So he just added for us in red which ones, which catch basins he was talking about. And then at the end of that is a checklist, because there's no way that anybody's going to remember to do any of the annual stuff without having a checklist posted somewhere. I mean, we've hired now, since the last project in 2011, where we put the first detention pond in, we've kept it up ourselves without any real formal reporting or documentation. So now we've hired, since we've got another pond and we've got the wetlands, we've got this Peabody Landscaping and Action King to do the annual, and we've put them on an annual or quarterly service thing, which, in all honesty, we were doing it all ourselves and probably not the greatest job, so I think we'll be in better shape going forward. We had everything done in November and December to the new as well as the old pond. That was cut just about a year ago, and then we cut it again this year. Had the landscapers clean it up. There was actually some trees growing in it at one point, and we took care of that. So I don't know what we need to present. Joe was out and walked the site. We've got the signs posted, and
Yeah. Do you want to? Yep. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. So my comments are: so the order of conditions expired in June 15th, 2023. So the order was issued, I believe, 3 years prior. The conditions of the order were the standard order of conditions, number 1 through number 19, and then permanent demarcation of the 25-foot no disturb zone. So the applicant presented the WPA Form 8A, an as-built stamped by a professional engineer or surveyor, a letter of substantial compliance saying that the site substantially complied with the approved set of site plans. I guess of note, like as we discussed, was standard condition number 18 basically wants the applicant to show some sort of compliance with their operation and maintenance plan for their stormwater management system. And so the applicant has presented some evidence of keeping up with that operation and maintenance plan, such as providing evidence that, you know, they've done the catch basin cleaning, et cetera. So with that being said, I don't have any further comments other than if the commission were to issue a complete certificate of the compliance for the project, I would recommend the following ongoing conditions in perpetuity, which would be special condition number 2, which establishes the demarcation of the 25-foot no disturb zone signs, which are, I think there's about 5 of them there.
There's 5 there, and I
Yep.
think there's another 5 on the driveway for the wetlands.
Right, yep. And then under section C, condition 19 of the order, letters D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L, which all pertain to stormwater maintenance. So it's kind of just reiterating, just in perpetuity, maintaining the stormwater management system as it was supposed to. So that's it.
Yep. Joe, will those be specifically noted in?
Yeah, so once the certificate of compliance is issued, there's a section in the certificate of compliance that marks, you know, which conditions within the order are going to apply in perpetuity.
Okay. I assume sounds like they're fairly logical. I mean, you've got to keep the system
Yeah.
working and the
Yep.
wetlands in good shape. And just one thing that was mentioned, what I had for proof is, I mean, I don't know how else you prove it except for I've got a couple of invoices at the end from the people that are doing the work, Peabody Landscaping and Action King for cleaning out the basins. And I was going to do a write-up, but I honestly didn't have time today. I was trying to pull together some of the plans, and I'm working out of the temporary office with a remote location with everything in it.
Gotcha.
Although our offices are coming along. And we certainly will comply with that. I mean, when the system first went into service, which was in August, I think we heard the pump alarm ringing, and the guys inadvertently shut it off, and our driveway backs up if things aren't working right, so we got to keep them working right. When they finally figured out that that was just an alarm that a second pump had gone on, they switched the whole thing back on, and it fixed it. But, you know, you live and learn.
Real quick, you said you have the markers for the 25-foot no disturb zone, and then you have 5 more. Is that an extension of the, or is that the wetland boundary that
That
you're
was
marking?
the wetland that got impacted right up by Woburn Street. So from Woburn Street right up around the corner to the building, we have 5
All right.
separate signs. What this project per se, although that other was a mistake on this project, it goes right along the pavement, and it's fairly obvious. I mean, it doesn't go deep into the woods. It's probably out about 250 feet maybe from the building.
So there's 5 installed for this notice of intent, and then there was additional signs at the front of the property issued as part of an enforcement order, like violation or anything. So
They're on.
And those first 5 along Woburn Street are probably the ones that people would more than likely want to dump at. Oops. Sorry. I heard an echo and thought I was being too loud.
All right, does anybody have any questions or comments on the commission?
I'm good.
Joe, do you have any other questions or comments?
I do not.
All right. If that's the case, I think everything looks good, and I will entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance. Do I have a motion?
I'm going to abstain because I didn't get the whole.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Oh, and gals.
Thank you.
My mistake.
No worries.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Is your father who I think he is?
Well, you could get him mistaken for one of the three brothers. Yeah, my dad's Dom, Dominic.
I noticed the name, and then I did some sleuthing online. And I was like,
Yeah, and the weird thing, just before I came in, Frank Sullivan, who was a pitcher for the Red Sox back in the late 50s and 60s after my dad's time, he wrote a book. Life is more than just 9 innings of short stories. Did I send
No.
you that one? I got to send it if you'll spread it around. The funniest short story, it's 1 page long, and it's bases loaded. Him in a pitching situation. So it was his son that called me, because they're all passed now. But it was just pretty neat to hear from him. And he was excited about talking to me as I was talking to him. We'd never met. But let me send that article through. It's kind of funny.
yeah, thank you. All right. Agenda item B, request for certificate of compliance, New Horizons Realty Group LLC, 1201 Main Street, Assessors Map 60, Lot 39, DEP file number 305-997. Is there anybody here for that?
Before I begin, you guys mind if I use your tripod?
Oh, yeah.
I would have brought my own, but there's more than one being used.
It's not holding the town seal right now, so you're free to use it.
Wonderful. Okay. My name is William Burnham. I'm here with TEC representing New Horizons Realty Group for 1201 Main Street. Here we're just presenting a certificate of compliance application for this phase 2 section of the property. Previously, this project has gone before the commission. I believe in 2020 was the most recent date, and 2021 as well. During those times, the plantings were an issue of concern. There's 45 tree plantings currently on the site. In the original proposed conditions, there were supposed to be 42 trees. In the conditions set, there was supposed to be a 2-year period of growth and then monitoring of said growth. That is now come and gone, and we have reports from Norse Environmental monitoring that growth. Along with that, there was an issue regarding the infiltration basin, which is seen right above the tree plantings on the left side of the building. The basin, when originally constructed, was not at the exact volume of the proposed conditions. It was slightly smaller at the time. Now it has been expanded as recent as November of this year. During said time, the volume is now exceeding the proposed condition by approximately, I want to say, under 100 cubic feet. Along with that, there's also the issue of plantings being not exactly as per the proposed landscaping plan. Plantings are located throughout the proposed planting area of the trees, as well as on the left side of the building. On the right side, there's one proposed tree, as well as trees within the bioretention area seen in the center of the parking lot. Outside of that, I've not much else.
Yeah, is the tree planting, was that you originally provided additional trees, but they weren't the ones that were written on the plan? Am I
Yeah, so originally when the trees were planted themselves, it was additional to, it was an exceedance of the proposed conditions as far as the number of plantings. They just were not in the same locations as the proposed planting plan.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I'm just confused. Why weren't they planted?
As far as the proposed landscaping plan,
Yeah.
I would love to answer the question, but that was a little before my time. The site was constructed when I joined on with the group, but from what I understand, this simply was just a decision by the owner and the landscaper to plant different plantings in different locations.
Do you know anything about that, Joe? Or?
So we're talking about the compensatory flood storage area? So what was the total again of what proposed versus there?
As far as total trees, it was
Yeah.
42 trees proposed and 45 have been planted.
Okay, so yeah, there's more than what was originally permitted, correct? Yeah. So I think there was just a couple swap outs or something, or different species or something like that.
They're just in a different place?
They're in the same
In the-
general area, but maybe not in the same, so they're all in that basin at the kind of bottom left-hand corner of that site plan, but maybe they're.
They're not the exact same layout as originally proposed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were all intended to be in that compensatory flood storage area.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Or Joe, do you have any questions or
Yeah,
comments?
I have some comments. So some outstanding issues, as the applicant may have already brought to our attention, is, it's not only the plantings in the compensatory flood storage area, but there are some plantings to the right of the office building that are in the buffer zone that,
I can probably point to it to help out a little bit.
yeah, that were proposed but weren't ever planted, and that was confirmed by a site visit. So, it would be nice to see those get planted as per the plan. I think it's within like 50 feet or 50, 60-ish feet from the wetlands, nearby wetlands.
I believe, as far as, I think you're referring to the wetlands in this location over here.
Yeah, yep. Secondly, compliance with standard 18, or the standard order of conditions that we issue, standard number 18, which is showing compliance with the stormwater management system maintenance, operation and maintenance. I'm not sure if you were able to talk with the client as far as documentation on that.
I did discuss it with the client itself, or our client. He informed us that he is accumulating the records. He does. I don't have them on hand currently, so. But yeah, he is doing due diligence on that. Yeah.
And the last thing, I would encourage the commission to read through the special conditions of this order, because some of them are pretty unique. One of them is special condition number 9, which states the old refuse area near wetland flag A7 should be cleaned and 2 own nest boxes should be installed to mitigate for impacted cavity trees. So the nest boxes are for birds. I'm not sure why that was included as part of the order. There must have been some alteration to habitat or previous bird boxes, I suppose. But those have been established. The only question that remains is whether this old refuse area near wetland flag A7 was ever cleaned. So.
And I did do some research on some of the old photos we have of the site. I did not notice a large or refuse area that may be notable, like significantly notable, I should say. In regards to that, when we did go inspect the area, there were some old bottles, from what I understood, within that area. But other than that, I did not notice any other typical kind of refuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my recommendation would be to kind of continue until those outstanding items are addressed. But it's up to the commission.
Yeah, so in regards to the O&M, like I had stated, we're still waiting on those records on our own end. Now, as far as the refuse area, those boxes have been added. Those have been there since, I want to say 2019 is when I have photos of them, like most recently. I was looking through the last week. In the refuse area itself, from what I can tell, I believe if you go in there and cleaned up everything by either scraping the ground or just picking it all up by hand, if you were to scrape the ground, you might do more damage than good, in my opinion, by doing excavation in there, considering it's all naturally overgrown at this point. Now, however, of course, you could go in and hand pick out some of these items, but that's just where I currently stand on it.
Where is the refuse area on this?
So in that special condition, it references near wetland flag A7, so it's going to be,
I do have a picture of it as well. It might kind of
sure.
help exhibit at least the area, so kind of pass it around.
Thank you.
The area itself is right here,
I don't see any.
next to the basin.
I don't see any. Is it under the leaves? The
There was a
bottles
couple
and stuff?
bottles noted under the leaves, but other than that, I didn't notice much.
Yeah.
That was, from what we had noticed as well, that was a wetland flag recently added. The A7 flag most likely is come and gone.
Said A7.
If you want, I can point out again where that is roughly on the plan, but
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, it's approximately right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the picture itself is taken facing this way.
So, yes. Compliance with standard 18 and special condition number 9. That,
In the plantings in the buffer.
yeah.
In regards to the plantings as well, outside of the trees, of course, there were some evergreen plantings added around the basin itself that were in addition to the proposed condition as well as on the south side of the parking lot throughout here. We don't have them exhibited on the plan, but they're very similar to these ones shown right here. So pretty much just similar to what I had said previously. It's not the exact same layout, but as far as the number of plantings go, the plantings are present.
Yeah, I'm personally okay with, a bit of a deviation in the exact planting plan and stuff. But the compliance with standard 18 and special condition number 9, can we just go over that again about why those haven't been completed yet?
18, the logs, we had asked the client for them. I just simply haven't received them yet. So that one, and as far as best I can do. As far as 9 goes, as Joe had noted too, it was something where even when we went out there, we were definitely looking for it. I presumed when I heard the condition was he read it as well, I thought it would be something a little more obvious. After inspecting and finding just that, I presumed it was either mostly cleaned at that point. The project is quite a history. But I believe it was started in 2014. So this is something that may have come and gone, and then it's gone by the hearsay. Who knows what happened exactly? But as far as the existing condition, that is where it is currently.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
It sounds like Joe's not comfortable with issuing this right now, so we should wait.
Yeah, I think especially that area, it's not, I agree, I don't think you have to go out and rip everything up or anything, but, cleaning up by hand what's out there at least. And 2 owned nest boxes. What is 2 owned nest boxes should be installed to mitigate?
They're basically like bird boxes, just like something you'd put up in a tree.
All right.
Yeah. We did, it actually took a little bit to notice them. They kind of blended in with the tree at a certain point. But we did both see them,
Yeah, so I think we should continue this until all of the orders can be satisfied, unless anybody has strong feelings against it.
I agree.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right. If that's the case, could I have a motion to continue this certificate of compliance for New Horizon Realty Group LLC, 1201 Main Street, Assessors Map 60, Lot 39, DP file number 305-997 to, I'll go with the next available meeting for when you request it, because I don't know how long this
Yeah.
will take.
No, that's, I mean, if those two conditions are the ones of concern, then I don't see why not. Yeah.
All right. Could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um, Agenda item C, request for certificate of compliance, Andrew Cole, New England Power Company, S145/T146 Transmission Line Row, Assessors Map lots 34 through 37, 102 to 41, 102 to 56, 112 to 1, 112-4, DEP file number 305-1128. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening. My name is Robert Tyler. I'm with BSC Group. We're the representative environmental consultant for National Grid on this project. At this time, we're requesting a certificate of compliance. All work has been completed on the sites for this project, and a site visit with your agent occurred earlier today. So,
Any questions or comments from the commission? One seems pretty standard. Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
My comments are that the order was set to expire February 24th, 2024. The conditions of the order were, standard orders of conditions in addition to some special conditions. An as-built was provided by a stamped professional engineer or surveyor. A letter of substantial compliance is provided stating substantial compliance with the site plans approved by the commission. They also provided the most recent planting inspection report, which was required for the wetland replication area. The wetland replication area was totals a 220 square foot area. I did a site visit today with a representative of BSC Group, and it looks pretty good. And their 2 years of monitoring kind of back up the success of that wetland replication area. So I have no further comments. And I would recommend the commission to issue a complete certificate of compliance.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Good.
All right. If that's the case, could I have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for Andrew Cole, DEP file number 305-1128?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
thank you. Have a good evening.
Agenda item D, request to extend an order of conditions for Robert Mercurio, 32 Moonlight Drive, Assessors Map 110, Lot 32, DEP file number 305-1125. Is there anybody here for that? Not seeing anybody. Joe, could you fill us in on the details for this? Were we expecting anybody for this?
Yeah, I always encourage people to come to a meeting if they have something on the agenda, but it's up to the commission if you want to table it, or I can go into the details if you want.
It's still fairly early in the meeting, so yeah, let's table this. Just going to make a note of that so I don't forget. We'll table this until the end of the meeting, but it's not, it's an extension, so if need be, we can, do with it. All right, so that's tabled. Agenda item E, a few of these are continued, so I'll take them in rapid order. Could I have a motion to continue to the January 24th, 2024 meeting, public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, Norse Environmental Services, Inc., on behalf of Ivan Cormier Construction Corp., 1596 Andover Street, adjacent Assessors Map 53, Lot 29, DEP file number 305-1194.
Were they not able to get that done in time? Is that the issue with that?
Yeah, so I can provide an update. So a third-party consultant was engaged on behalf of the commission. They're still trying to coordinate for a site visit meet out there.
Okay.
Obviously, the 13 inches of snow didn't help.
All right, could I have a motion to continue that public hearing to 1/24/2024?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item F, could I have a motion to continue to the January 24th, 2024 meeting, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., on behalf of Dr. Nitish Nahata, 1438 Main Street, Assessors Map 59, Lot 58, DEP file number 305-1187.
Make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item G, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., on behalf of LNG Main Street LLC, 1167, 1177, and 1187 Main Street, Assessors Map 61, lots 1, 105, and 107 respectively. DEP file number 305-1192. Could I have a motion to continue that to the next meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Agenda item H, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., on behalf of 911 and 913 East Street, LLC, 913 East Street, Assessors Map 102, Lot 52, DEP file number 305-1191. Could you please introduce yourselves for the record?
While she's doing that, Arnie Martel, proponent.
Mira Cousins, Civil Design Consultants.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this thing.
Movie time.
So we were last here on October 18th. We opened the hearing and presented the proposed redevelopment of 913 East Street. So at that time, we had shown that there were two off-site wetlands that are located approximately 60 feet from the southern property line, and only the 100-foot buffer zone crossed onto the southern portion of the property. So I'll just point out this area here, and these were the two off-site wetlands. So then on December 14th, Joe had walked the site with Norse Environmental, and it was agreed that there was a small isolated wetland located on the railroad parcel, approximately 4 feet south of the property. So that's this area here. So this isolated wetland is not protected under Mass DEP Wetlands Protection Act. However, it is protected under your local bylaw. You may recall that there's an existing stormwater basin located at the western corner of the lot, where currently runoff from the majority of the site discharges into. So any overflow from that existing basin discharges onto the abutting railroad right-of-way and into that off-site isolated wetland. So with that said, we submitted a revised NOI narrative, and we quantify the proposed impacts within the buffer zone associated with that isolated wetland. So I'll just run through those numbers with you. So we have a decrease of 10 square feet within the 25-foot no disturb zone. We have a 90 square foot decrease of impervious area between the 25-foot and the 50-foot no build zone. And we have a decrease of 855 square feet between the 50-foot and 100-foot wetland buffer zone. I'll just, this is the proposal here. So we have a total decrease of 955 square feet of impervious area between the wetland and the 100-foot buffer zone. Also, this is a redevelopment project since we're decreasing the total on-site impervious area by approximately 440 square feet. So there were 3 major changes we made to the design since we were last here in October. So I'll just run through those changes with you. So the first item is we are proposing to retrofit that existing basin into a dry detention basin, and we'll still provide the reduction to both peak discharge and volume directed towards the railroad right-of-way. Second, to meet the recharge requirement under the Stormwater Standard 3, we are proposing a subsurface infiltration system below the parking lot, and that's sized to collect and infiltrate the recharge volume of the entire roof area of the proposed building. To meet Standard 4, we've added a storm scepter structure, and that's sized to treat the water quality volume and provide the 80% TSS removal for all on-site impervious area. So we received a letter from the town's peer review consultant on Monday of this week, and we've addressed all their comments, so we got a clean letter. And we also received approval from the planning board on Monday as well. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the commission? Give you some more time, but in the meantime, Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
Yep. So probably just reiterating some comments made by the applicant. So our third-party engineering review was conducted, and they provided basically their approval of the stormwater management design as of January 8th, 2024. As noted by the applicant, there's a reduction in impervious area in all portions of the buffer zone, but in particular within the no disturb zone, net decrease of 10 square feet. As far as compliance information, that's really all I have. I guess for the commission, within the CAT doc, the red text is like the updated notes on the project. And then I can go into conditions I would suggest, but if you guys want to talk about it first.
Not much discussion going on for this project so far. It seems, I guess I would say I wish there was more than 10 feet reduction, but that's still a pretty good, amount for redevelopment, I think. So, but Joe, if you want to take it away.
So some conditions I would suggest for the commission to include in an order of conditions approving this notice of intent would be standard conditions number 1 through number 4 and number 9 through number 19. Special condition number 1, which would be provide an approved SWIP to the Conservation Commission prior to the start of construction. Any reporting required under the SWIP shall also be provided to the Conservation Commission. Number 3, a native sea mix shall be applied to pervious areas within the 25-foot no disturb zone as shown on the approved site plans. Said area shall be left as native vegetation and not maintained as lawn in perpetuity. That makes sense?
Yes.
The long-term operation and maintenance program as provided in the drainage report shall be abided by. And perimeter sediment controls may include of a 12-inch diameter compost filter tube and or a properly entrenched silt fence. Sorry, I'm going to say shall instead of may right there. The conservation agent may approve of alternative equivalent sediment controls. So going back to the native sea mix thing in the 25-foot no disturb zone, are you guys planning on basically clearing up to the limit of work? Are you saving trees there?
Well, no, I saw you note too, as far as the trees being replaced.
Yeah.
With the new parking area, and then regrading that specific area
Yep.
that we shaded, you know, there definitely will be some clearing there just to get the grades correct. The trees are getting older, they're out of control anyway. They haven't been maintained in ever.
Okay.
So they definitely have to come out, and, you know, I would be replacing trees, native species trees. I saw the list you sent over, you know, there's
Yep.
plenty to choose from there. You know, I would be looking to do some sort of a hedge, you know, to give a buffer, not only from the wetland, but also the train tracks there. I know you, on your notes, you said you'd be looking, if I am going to cut those trees, which we have to regrade, you know, up to 10 trees would be replaced.
Yeah.
The only thing I would ask for is for the number to kind of be more fluid. I see it being more than 10, but
Okay.
just in case we end up getting in there and cutting less trees, I just want to make sure that 10 isn't a dead set number. You know, I would like some discretion on that where, you know, maybe we cut less than we need and we prune up some trees and make them nicer and I only have to plant 6. Maybe it's not, you know, with the grading, more trees have to come out and I want to plant 15,
Yeah.
you know.
So actually, I need to, I think I sent some language to you that didn't quite match what I just said, so I just need 1 second to look at that. Sorry.
I definitely would like to have some sort of buffer there to the train tracks, as is there now. It's just, like I said, the trees weren't maintained and, you know, trimmed and pruned properly over the years. So they definitely have to come out and have something, you know, aesthetically more pleasing there and more of a buffer than, you know, just kind of straggly trees at this point.
You people have been known not to be scringing on the trees and shrubs.
We do like our landscaping.
So yes, sorry, the language I used here is kind of not the same that I sent to you, and I meant to say this. So the conditions I would suggest are standard conditions number 1 through number 4, number 9 through number 19. Provide an approved SWIP to the Conservation Commission prior to start of construction. Any reporting required under the SWIP shall also be provided to the Commission. A native CMake shall be applied to the no disturb zone as shown on the approved site plans. Said area shall be left as native vegetation and not maintained as lawn in perpetuity. During construction, existing shrubs and trees shall be preserved where possible within the no disturb zone. The Commission may require up to 10 total plantings of native shrubs and/or trees within the no disturb zone. If the Commission finds that significant shrub and tree removal was conducted within the no disturb zone during construction, so we can talk about that. And then the long-term operation and maintenance program as provided in the drainage report shall be abided by. Perimeter sediment controls may include a 12-inch diameter, or sorry, shall include a 12-inch diameter compost filter tube and/or a properly entrenched silt fence. The conservation agent may approve of alternative equivalent sediment controls. And then for the condition above, no disturb zone shall mean the pervious post-construction approved portions of the no disturb zone, as in areas not occupied by pavement based on the post-construction site plans within 25-foot no disturb zone within the 913 East Street property. So I suggested the Commission may require up to 10 total plantings of native shrubs or trees, kind of depending on how much is preserved. Yeah. And I use the term, so the Commission may require up to 10 total plantings of native shrubs and or trees within the no disturb zone if the Commission finds that significant shrub and tree removal was conducted within the no disturb zone. So it's kind of kept a little vague just so the Commission can have the discretion after there's some construction, seeing like, okay, how many trees are preserved? Are there enough? And this is in combination with the seeding as well. So
you're saying up to, what if I want to do more, if we clear more of an area?
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, you can always do.
How many, do you know how many are there right now?
No, and Mayor asked me the same thing when we come in. There's probably, again, it hasn't been maintained.
Yeah.
So one tree turned into 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's, I mean, you know, just brush and pucker brush and all that sort of thing that looks like trees because it was never maintained and clean. You know, I understand obviously the native mix that's going to grow natural there anyway, but I mean, the trees are just overgrown. You know, I'd say a dozen, you know, roughly,
Okay.
approximately. Approximately.
Okay. So up to 12 is what you would rather say, or up to 15? Is there a
No,
number?
I'm saying, he said how many trees are kind of there
Oh,
now.
okay.
But again, there's, you know, there's weeds that are this big now, growing into trees, so it's hard to say, you know, how many trees are actually there. Obviously with the grading and then cleaning up the existing basin and doing all that, you know, that stuff's gonna have to come out. So it's hard to say exactly the exact amount of trees we're gonna disturb. But I just want, I almost don't want to be handcuffed into only being able to do a few trees. I'd like to be able to do more if I could.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
What work do you plan on doing on the existing basin? Because it says reseed if necessary. What are your plans exactly down there?
So that too is like overrun with vegetation there, so just clearing that out.
There's trees growing in it. There's, again, never been maintained.
Yeah.
So is that concrete wall already there? Is that an existing concrete wall?
No, that's a proposed.
Okay, so you're gonna add, so you will do work in there regardless.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the up to 10 was a way to control, like, the ability for the commission to require you to do something, but if you want to do more, then I wouldn't see an issue with that.
Yeah, then I'm not concerned with the language. I'm fairly sure that I'll be doing more than 10.
Okay.
If there's no more discussion from the commission, could I have a motion to approve this notice of intent as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Close public hearing.
Oh, disregard that. That's very
No,
correct.
too late.
This is a public hearing. Anybody who would like to get up and make a comment, now is your time to do so. Not seeing anybody, I am going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, and now, could I have a motion to approve this notice of intent as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And unless there's, are you up again and two? So unless there's objection from the back, if you wanna, we can skip around, if you're ready right
Yep,
now.
I'm ready, yep.
All right, so agenda item K, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., on behalf of First Street Resident LLC, 20 First Street, Assessors Map 81, Lot 192, DEP file number not yet assigned.
For the record, I'm Mira Cousins, Civil Design Consultants. Bring this up. All right. So we submitted an NOI for the proposed landscaping and tree removal located within the wetland buffer zones associated with the bordering vegetated wetlands located off-site west of the property. The existing site contains a single-family house, paved driveway, and associated utilities. The purpose of this project is to landscape a portion of the rear yard up to the center line of the adjacent undeveloped right-of-way. Approximately 7,200 square feet of landscaping and tree removal disturbance will occur between the 25-foot no-disturb zone and the 100-foot buffer zone. No work is proposed within the 25-foot no-disturb zone. Erosion controls will be installed along the 25-foot no-disturb zone. So it's my understanding that as of today, there isn't a DEP file number yet. So we can't close the hearing tonight, but I figured we'd open it up and get your feedback. happy to take questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Do you know how many trees are going to be removed?
Don't have a number, no.
I mean, is it going to be like clear cut? Like, are they planning to take everything out?
Yeah,
there?
that's my understanding, yeah.
So my biggest concern about this is that the site plan shows the proposed limit of work going, extending off of the applicant's property line. And I don't believe we can approve work on somebody else's property without, Joe, did you confirm if they need a letter, a written letter or something?
So I touched base with the owner of 21st Street. He's certain that he has ownership halfway to the paper street that is Delaware Road. So he's at least provided his own confidence that he owns that, and I don't have, unless we do a thorough title search to figure out who the real property owner is, because I don't believe it's as straightforward as, common law, you own halfway to the paper road. I think that is like the default thing, but I'm not sure if that's as straightforward as that, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in that area. But regardless, the commission issuing an order doesn't relieve the applicant of proper notification to homeowners. So we can still issue an order for work that doesn't occur on someone's property or their own property. Obviously, if we're well aware of that, then we would like them to, provide their permissions up front. But the applicant has reassured us that he believes he owns this portion of the property. I think he's in the works with potentially buying this piece of property across the street from there. So the other side of Delaware Road as well. But again, just wanted to emphasize, the commission issuing an order doesn't relieve someone from giving proper notification that work may occur on someone else's property.
All right, so his intention is to buy the other side. I just don't want anything we decide here tonight to make somebody assume that somebody has the right to do something on property that they don't own. And, if all of this work is completed and then the next day somebody comes out and says, I actually have the deed to this property, we're not held liable for approving this when somebody else technically owns this property. So I just wanted to, get that on the record, basically. Yeah.
I mean, my problem with it is it's sitting in front of me. I'm approving something that's not on their constrained and they're documented, deeded. So if for me to approve this, I'm approving something on, I don't know who owns it. Because I'm looking, it's on the plan. You can't say you didn't see it, So if it wasn't there, I'd be okay with it. But the problem is when you're looking at it, your statement of, they say, well, I think I own half. Well, how many times, what did we just deal with trees? Oh, I thought that was my property, and we cut them all down. Now, I say, remove it from the plan, and we'll approve it.
I agree. I think that would be one of the easier solutions of, we'll approve what
is on their property.
Yeah, is on their property.
You agree with that, Linda?
Yes, yeah. I mean, and if he wants to include that property, he should have some kind of title or be able to tell us that he owns it. You can do a title search. I mean, that's not a big deal.
I mean, that stuff takes a long time. I certainly don't want to delay anybody from doing it, but there are some concerns about what we would and would not be approving based on the site plans and stuff.
I think your original statement, Dan, is you're approving something that we don't know who owns that property, and it's on part of our approval. I don't want it coming back on me. Not that it's a, but.
As Joe stated, our approval is not a blanket, you can do this or you can't do that. It's deciding whether this work will affect the wetlands.
I'm just going to be an
yeah,
advocate. An inference of going to court, they'd say, well, it was on your plan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I guess, I mean, I obviously hear what you're saying. I guess the context of like when an applicant comes here is not necessarily about like property boundaries. It's about, I'm proposing this activity. Will this have adverse impacts on nearby wetland resource areas? And so that's the context of every project that comes forth to us. I still understand what you're saying. It's just, I don't know.
But
I just figured I'd say
what I think my advocacy here is, I see they've done a nice plan. We want to help them, but you're putting stuff there that you don't own, and I'm not comfy with it. And if you just said, hey, take that off, what do you think? It doesn't adversely affect the thing. We're good.
Yeah.
I would also entertain like a motion of, approving this as is, except for that piece. We're not going to comment on anything about that one piece, and what happens afterwards happens. If this person did own this entire thing, I would not be concerned about this at all.
Well, if they're buying the other half of the lot, or the other lot, can't they just clear up what's going on in Delaware Road at that point in time? So they can do the work up to their property line now, and then when they buy the other property and develop that, then they can do all of Delaware Road.
If that's part of it. Whatever they own it, as long as it's.
And that would be a separate,
correct.
Notice of intent.
Since I'm looking at it and I know it's not in the lot, I'm like, it's a little convoluted.
So we are continuing this, so I can check with the owner if he has documentation.
Yeah, we're just trying to.
Yeah, because if there's documentation, then,
Yeah,
I mean, this is all moot,
got it.
so.
Okay.
All right, so any other discussion?
I think that's really it in a nutshell, isn't it?
So I guess I just wanted to read off the other comments I had, separate from that issue. So just maybe establishing conservation markers along the 25-foot no disturb zone within the property. That's, my personal suggestion. And then there's a small area of the 25-foot no disturb zone that has historically been altered. So just revegetating that area and maybe putting one of the conservation sign markers in front of that. That's it.
All right. In that case, could I have a motion to continue? Before I ask for the motion, did you have a meeting you'd like to come back to, the 24th or later?
We'll stick with the 24th.
All right.
Yeah.
Open the public hearing.
Oh, yeah. And this is a public hearing. I'm not going to close the public hearing tonight, but it will be opened if anybody would like to make any comments. All right, so now could I have a motion to continue this notice of intent to the January 24th meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the movie end.
All right.
Where'd it go?
Now going backwards, agenda item I, public hearing, notice of intent, Bales Associates, Inc., Boston, Massachusetts, on behalf of Holt & Bugby Company, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 1600 Shawshene Street, assessors map 112, lot 4, DEP file number 305-1181. Could you please introduce yourselves for the record?
Daniel Moore with National Development.
If needed, Billy Collins, Holden Bugby.
And you own this property, right?
Yes.
And Matthew Costa with Beals Associates. Just get set up here. Old school with the plans. All right, so the property is, I'm sorry, this is the mill. We're starting with the mill property, right? There's two parcels. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I is for Holton Bugby.
Holton Bugby, great. So the Holton Bugby site, the property is obviously all owned by Holton Bugby, and it holds Holton Bugby's existing operations right now. Holton Bugby is a mill facility. They produce lumber, but mill and produce, sized lumber for different uses. The overall site, as you can see, is pretty much paved. I'll outline the property here all along Shawshene Street down the bottom here, and it comes all the way back to this back corner, and then it jumps around this existing building at 1500 Shawshene here. The property was recently subdivided. Property line comes right through the middle here, and that's for the proposed 2 developments that you're going to have in front of you tonight. The Holton Bugby mill facility will be this portion here, which we call a dumbbell, this larger portion here, and then another smaller portion up towards the front side there, about 8 acres in size. The overall development, as I mentioned, Holton Bugby side here, and this is the proposed warehouse that you'll see at the project after. So, 2 proposed buildings, one 60,000 square feet up towards the back, that'll be the mill facility, and then a second building up towards the front, both 2-story in the back here for a small mezzanine space, and a 1-story building up towards the front for storage. That'll be just for storage of lumber until it's ready to go out. Parking around the site, got about 71 spaces parked out towards the back here. There's a number of parking spaces on the side. Large parking lot up here, and then there's just some striped spaces in the back here, but for the most part, this back area would be used for laydown of materials as they get processed throughout the building. Building up front, storage building, parking along the bottom here, and then parking along the side here. Employees would come in, they could grab a forklift from that storage building, and just they work around the site moving materials between the storage and the mill building. Overall, impervious area, well, let me just step back here. Your wetlands are located down towards the back here. There's white boundary underneath here. There's large power lines that run this way here. So there is clearing that does happen out there. That's the power company going out there to take down trees and shrubs. But for the most part, you do have some existing trees and shrubs out through the back here, a lot of it. Some invasive type stuff out towards the back. 100-foot does extend into the site, 50-foot existing wise, there is pavement within the 25-foot notice term, and then more pavement within the 50. Proposed condition, I do have a figure that I can show you if you'd like, but for the numbers, overall about 2,600 square feet of pavement would be removed from all of the buffer zones, but 2,600 is removed from the 25-foot, 2,900 is removed from the 50-foot, and then we'll be adding about 2,900 within the 100-foot resource area. That's just kind of rounding out one of these corners here, so it nets to 2,600 square feet removed from the buffer zone, and most importantly, that's removed from the 25-foot buffer zone. So we're not adding anything to the 25, we're not adding anything to the 50. Overall net removal there, so we're just adding some to the 100-foot. Right now on the site, there is no stormwater management. I mean, there are some catch basins that are capturing stormwater, but for the most part, this site was developed many years back before these regulations, so they're inline catch basins, no sumps, no hoods, no water quality, no detention, and no infiltration. So the proposed project provides a big improvement upon those conditions. Since then, we've been working with the engineering department. I think this was first filed back in May. We had come and presented it to you at that time, and then since then we've been just working with the engineering department and through the planning board to resolve the engineering department's comments. For the most part now, we've addressed all the engineering department's comments. We are still working just a couple minor ones with just some utility edits that we can just take care of with a control document. The 2 remaining open items that we have right now are regarding stormwater recharge. The engineering department is having a difference in views of Mass DEP's requirements in regards to the stormwater recharge. As you know, there's 10 state standards for stormwater in the Mass DEP handbook. Standard 3 is for recharge requirements. For the overall site, for our overall site, you're required to recharge 65%, and that's for a new development. Since our site is a redevelopment, we are reducing impervious area on the site by more than what I just explained within the buffer zone. Overall, it's a very big reduction in impervious area, but it is considered a redevelopment. The town has agreed with us on that. So that brings us to standard number 7. Standard number 7, and I can just read it for you. Standard number 7, a redevelopment project is required to meet the following stormwater management standards only to the maximum extent practicable: standard 2, standard 3, and pre-treatment and structural best management practices of requirements, standards 4, 5, and 6. So 4, 5, 6, and number 2, we've met and exceeded to those requirements. TSS removal, we've met the 80%. As well as just a number of BMPs that we've put through the site. We have open air infiltration to handle a parking lot. It's a reserved parking lot that's actually on the lot 1. This is a reserved parking lot here that supports this building, really just for zoning. That's parking lot's not going to be built, but stormwater design items have been and will be constructed to accommodate that. So really, it would be over-designed. But for the most part, as mentioned, we have a number of BMPs. We have subsurface infiltration systems, water quality units, deep sump-hooded catch basins, water quality swales and pretreatment devices. We also have an infiltrative trench that runs along the back here. A number of BMP type measures that we put out to protect the resource areas and really to just provide that improvement upon the existing conditions. So bringing it back, standard 7 is maximum extent practical. I'm sure you've heard that before. For standard number 3 with recharge, 65% is what was required. We are providing, I think it's 47% overall across the site. So we have done that to our extent practical. There's a number of considerations that are outlined in the stormwater handbook in regards to site constraints. So site constraints are soils, not specifically stated, but groundwater is our biggest site constraint on the site. The site does have very high groundwater. It's about 1 or 2 foot back when we tested it in August. Right now, it's probably even a little bit higher right now with the amount of rain that we've all been getting. There are also easement restrictions across the site. As I mentioned, the high tension power lines, which take up pretty much this entire area in the back here. We also have a high pressure gas main for Tennessee Gas Company that runs through the back. So we're not able to put any stormwater management subsurface infiltration systems underneath those easements. Obviously, there's that gas line that we can't get into, and that the power line will allow us to do any work there. They want to be able to move their pole and have all their rights. They don't want you also changing grade out there. They don't want to reduce that separation to the power lines. And of course, the gas main, they don't want you adding more cover or reducing any cover over their pipe. So we don't have the ability to raise our site in order to give that separation to groundwater to get more infiltration. We don't have the ability to obviously provide a large amount of area, impervious area, and then just space that we couldn't infiltrate in. We can't do that because of those easement restrictions. And then the back portion here, again, it's just more high groundwater. The back side of the site has the highest groundwater as you're close to the wetlands. When you get up towards the front, towards Shawshene Street, you do get into some better sand materials, and about 6 or 7 feet down to groundwater. So we have a large subsurface infiltration system out towards the front of that building. Maximize it to the most that we can within the available footprint, staying outside of our utility corridors there. And then we have a subsurface detention system which controls the rate of that runoff. And the overall stormwater management design, as I mentioned, this is all infiltration that we're providing up here. Your jurisdictional or your areas that we're trying to protect are back here where we cannot fit any infiltration in. We've done the best that we can to separate these. They're actually, independent stormwater systems where all this stormwater is going to that infiltration system or into that basin, or it's staying in that detention system. That all stays up towards the front. Stormwater in the back here is captured through your detention systems. It's treated, we're meeting that 80%, and then it's detained on site, so it's slowly released through an outlet control structure out into the wetlands. So we're not, flushing a lot of water out there. It's slowly leaching out, which is, one of the requirements of the standards that we've met. So with all those site constraints, we think we've done everything we can to the maximum extent practical. With just a little bit of an impasse there with the engineering department. We brought it before Joe. I think Joe's taken a look at it, and I'll allow him to have any comments or recommendations to that, but that with the other developments that we've done in the past, with redevelopment, this is typical to allow for the maximum extent practical. We've done over 30 test pits across the site, and just show you a quick figure on that. This was included in our response to engineering comments, which, as I mentioned, we've been going through with them since about May. But overall site constraints, every color here is a different site constraint between maintained for existing buildings. Some we can't, test underneath an existing building. We obviously can't infiltrate underneath a proposed building. We have the easement restrictions in yellow. High groundwater is shown in the purple there. And then just stormwater conveyance. Some areas are just too low where we can't direct stormwater to a certain area. So, and then you have your blue and your red circles there. Those are all the test pits that we run on site to check the groundwater. We've done over 30 test pits across the entire property to really define where these site constraints are, where the high groundwater is, most of which were all observed by the engineering department. So again, we really we've maxed out every footprint that we can to try to infiltrate and recharge water. We've done everything we can with the site constraints that we have. We firmly believe that we've done everything we can. Overall, as I mentioned, this is a big improvement upon what's out there. There's no stormwater management, there's no infiltration, zero water quality treatment. All of that water is getting out to your large wetland resource area out to the back. So overall, maximum extent, we think this is a great improvement upon the existing conditions. Otherwise, I think that generally summarizes everything we have. Large amount of landscaping too. I'd just say we've done, since I heard that, and a couple of other projects all along the resource area out in the back here. We have about 140 shrubs out through the back. No proposed trees just due to some elevations to the groundwater, but a large amount of shrubs out there, shrubs with berries, stuff like that, stuff that's gonna improve the conditions, give some habitat and some, food for some of those, animals and whatnot that are out there. We don't have any shrubs down here. We didn't want to plant anything because the power company's just gonna go back out there and tear them all out. So we've done everything we can to promote that. We also have snow storage, no snow dumping signs that are proposed all along the perimeter here. So to prevent any snow dumping that just, somebody just pushing the snow off into those resource buffers, we have signs about, I think, every 100 feet to prevent that from happening. So a lot of different forms of protection out there to protect the resource area as well as just provide a better condition than that's there right now. And that is it. Sorry.
All right. So I guess my only question out of a lot of information.
Sure.
So to the two-story mill building, below that, how far does the pavement go down? Where does the pavement end? Is it all the way in that gray area?
Yeah, this is the pavement line, this gray area here.
That's all.
Yep.
All right.
That's all proposed pavement. Your 50-foot line, we're just inside of it here, and then just inside of it here.
And you're not removing anything because of the easement from that area, or
we're not removing any pavement. No, we're maintaining the pavement there.
All right. Because I was going to ask. You said something about storage of material right there?
Yeah, this area would be used for storage of lumber.
I wouldn't say storage. I would say more operationally, it's the loading area for the building. So that's really where the trucks will come in, put the storage down, but move in quickly. They're not long-term. There's no long-term or even short-term storage in that area.
Yeah, it's not bay loading from the rear of a tractor trailer because it's lumber. It all goes in on the sides.
All right.
So it would be staged out per truck, loaded in on the sides.
My concern was that
sit overnight anyways.
All right. Yeah, my concern was that you'd effectively be creating a structure, and that would be moving or preventing the water from.
Sure.
But if it's already going to be paved, then it's not a concern.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
It's a lay-down yard, that area. It's a lay-down area, right?
Yeah, and actually, currently in the past, it's been used as an air drying yard, so there would have been lumber out there for anywhere from 30 to 270 days at a time.
No, good.
With engineering comments, do they have anything specific they want you to do, or just do more?
The recommendation that they had was to raise the site in order to get that separation from groundwater in order to infiltrate. To us, that's not practicable.
Is it feasible?
I mean, anything's feasible, but due to our site constraints, it's really not. We can't raise the grade along this easement, which means we cannot raise the building. So that whole building and the pave really needs to stay at that elevation. And practicality-wise, in order to raise that site 4 feet, you know, it's 3,000 truckloads, about 60,000 cubic yards of material that would need to get brought in order to raise that site. Between costs, you know, logistics of doing that, and then impacts. You know, we'd have a number of retaining walls that would have to go in and around, and we just don't feel like that's practical.
The biggest problem is, like you said, Mass Electric and stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah, we really can't. We can't raise grade. I'm proposing to raise grade about a foot in the back over that gas easement right now, and I think next week I have to go out there and do test pits to prove that we still have the separation to the gas main right now. So they're tough.
They don't want you near that gas line.
It's for good reason. for good reason.
Is the soil good on your test pit, Matt, where it's yellow, where there are restrictions? Is that good soil or bad soil?
It's bad soil. Pretty much anywhere in the whole back of the site is bad soil. This whole back area was all filled in wetlands. I don't know the year.
So the restriction's not really necessarily just easements, it's also bad.
Soils, yeah, soils and groundwater is really.
So I was going to say, why don't you make some of that pervious pavement or something like that to help infiltration, but.
Yeah,
because you have a color code as yellow and not purple.
Correct, and then for water quality, pervious pavement, you'd have to treat it before you could infiltrate it, so we wouldn't be able to just open it up.
But it's a whole site, so if you get better treatment in other areas, you can hit standard 3 a little bit higher and get standard 4 a little bit lower, so you can kind of do a balancing act if you could do that. To a degree.
To a degree, but yeah, like I said, we're considered a level, so.
So where does the stormwater go in that section next to that mill building at this point in time with your current design?
With the current design, it'll come out through an outfall here, and then there's another outfall up towards the back here. But for most of the water, it comes out through here, out to the wetland, and that's generally what it does right now.
With treatment?
What's that?
With treatment?
With treatment. Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, water quality units, the deep sump catch basins. We have pretext inlets, a number of them, all the way up to the standard. The engineering department didn't have any issue with our pre-treatment at all. They agreed that we met that standard.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
I was just wondering, when you did all those tests, those wells, those 30 wells that you did, was there any testing for hazardous materials or contamination in those? Or was that just to find out where the groundwater was?
Our test pits were for just stormwater. I believe there was a geotech report that was done, and most likely a phase 1.
Yeah, we did geotech reports. We have a full phase 1. There is an AUL on the existing, or an existing AUL on the warehouse portion of the site, which we can note. But aside from that, nothing in the phase 1 or geotech. And we also did hazardous material testing on the existing structures, just to scope out whatever would need to be removed or abated during the demo process as well.
Okay, thanks.
Were all of the test pits witnessed by the town, or?
No, and Matt's figure there showed between the blue and the red, some were, some were not. We didn't catch in the bylaws that they needed to be observed, so we went and performed them as part of our due diligence and then realized after the fact, so went back out and did more.
All right, if there's no further discussion from the commission, Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
So I guess just addressing standard 3, that's basically the main impasse between the engineering department and the applicant. Just talking with the applicant, kind of reviewing what's been presented to date, and kind of picking up the pieces of the coordination between the applicant and engineering department. I've kind of reviewed it myself, and the commission is ultimately the authority who determines compliance with the Mass Stormwater Standards. So based on everything submitted, I think the commission has a reasonable interpretation of the applicant meeting the stormwater standards to the maximum extent practicable, since it's a redevelopment project. Aside from the stormwater issue, just some notes. I think the site plans are pretty thorough as far as providing, an overall improvement to the site, even aside from stormwater, just improving the 25-foot no disturb zone, removing a lot of impervious surface. So I generally don't have an issue with this project, and I think it's a good opportunity to kind of improve the 25-foot no disturb zone. Just looking for my comments here.
Yes, that's a question we have before. So just to get back to raising that 4 feet, what's the total cost of this redevelopment project? What's the total cost of the redevelopment project?
Across just this building, or?
This, yeah, I guess I just have to focus on.
Comfortable sharing numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has not been contracted yet, so I would say we
Correct.
don't have a full bid.
Yeah,
but,
you have all your contingencies and everything. Yeah.
From a construction site work perspective, would look something around the range of a $30 million project.
Do you know how much it would cost to bring in the soil to raise it to 4 feet?
We have certainly priced it. That's many millions of dollars.
Many millions?
Above
okay.
$5 million.
So you're
certainly.
talking about more than 10% of the total project cost? Okay, that's all I needed to know.
All right, so just getting back to these comments here. So there is a slight encroachment into the no build zone. It just touches the mill building, but it's pretty much negligible, especially considering our bylaw allows for a 10% encroachment. I would say a recommended condition, if the Conservation Commission issues an order of conditions, would be that an alternative seed mix may be approved by the conservation agent for application within the buffer zone. So there's some sort of landscaping plan as part of your plan set that calls for some sort of seed mix. So in case that seed mix doesn't work out, or because it may be like a wetland seed mix that's suggested, and that may not be great in that area, just based off how I recall the site. So once we get to that point, we can have a conversation about the best seed mix. The site plans do propose 2 rows of silt fence and straw wattle spaced 5 feet apart. So I definitely like that. And orange snow fence is proposed in between. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, on the closest silt fence side.
Okay.
Just to make sure that nobody's going past limit of work.
Yep. And silt sacks are proposed in the catch basins. There's no snow dumping signs spaced along the perimeter of the site. I would recommend Conservation Commission signs along the 25-foot no disturb zone if they're not already marked on the site plans, at least spaced anywhere between 50 to 100 feet apart along the perimeter of the site where the no disturb zone exists. Dewatering seems to be covered in the site plans. I would recommend the Concom to receive an approved SWIP prior to construction. Copies of any reporting required under the SWIP shall also be provided to the Conservation Commission. And I would recommend standard conditions number 1 through number 4 and number 9 through number 19. That's it.
All right. Any further discussion on any of that?
Comfortable with those?
All right, that's it for this one. This is a public hearing, so I will open up to the public to make any comments. Not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion to approve the notice of intent for Bales Associates, Inc., DP file number 305-1181 as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. And now, for a public hearing, notice of intent, Bales Associates, Inc., Boston, Massachusetts, on behalf of National Development, Newton, Massachusetts, 1600 Shawshene Street, Assessors Map 112, Lot 4, DEP file number 305-1182. Could you please introduce yourselves for the record again?
Daniel Moore with National Development.
Matthew Costa with Beals Associates.
Billy Collins, Holton Bugby.
Thank you. All right. The floor is back to you.
So now you're on this side of the property here. This is the warehouse development. It is a 180,000 square foot warehouse building. It is going to be 2-story with just mezzanine space up in the front, totaling about 10,000 square feet. Parking across the site, have about 125 parking spaces, all parked along here. And then you have a reserved parking lot here that's about 64 parking spaces here. We're not proposing to build that. That's just to get to zoning compliance. We are requesting that through the planning board. So this would all stay landscaping unless that parking would be needed by a tenant, but for a warehouse type use, we don't see that ever happening. So this would provide a great screen from Shawshene Street, and it would be maintaining this evergreen screen as well as infilling with additional plantings along the front, as well as a berm that just also provides more screening to some of these residential abutters. So we've focused a lot on landscaping. But stepping back to resource areas, if I must, resource areas are up all the way up towards the top. This white line that's just on the back here, it runs just along the back side of the railroad tracks up towards the top. We are outside of the 50-foot, whole property is outside of the 50-foot for this resource area as well as over here. We are inside of the 100-foot for this section as well as this section here. We were previously proposing to remove this pavement, but through talks with the actual property owner with the MBTA, we voided that. So we are still netting a reduction in impervious area within the buffer zone. For the most part, it is all this green area out towards the back. As you can see, it's paved pretty much past our property line. So it is still a reduction in impervious area up around the back there. Number of trees going in. We are providing a little bit of an evergreen screen up towards the right corner. So as you drive down Shawshene, you're going to screen out this loading area towards the back. This gray area up here just outside of the pavement, that's water quality and pre-treatment area, detention basin lined with riprap to get water quality and pre-treatment to the most that we can. It's a very large area, but it handles all of this loading area as well as this trailer storage area and turnaround here. And then obviously landscaping around the perimeter and then focus up towards the front. Otherwise, stormwater management, you have a very large and open air infiltration basin down towards the bottom here. And we've done a number of BMPs, including like pre-text inlet devices. These are in lieu of catch basins. We've done those pre-text devices because they don't have the pipe that needs to be 3 or 4 feet below grade. It's basically just a curb that kind of goes into what I call similar to like a septic tank, where it goes into one side of a chamber, allows the sediments to settle out, and then water can overflow off the top, and then into a swale that runs along the back, a water quality swale. So we're getting more pre-treatment there through that water quality swale before it goes into a sediment forebay up towards the front here, more pre-treatment and water quality, and then it gets into your infiltration basin. There is no outlet to this infiltration basin. That basin handles the 100-year storm and over. Slightly over the 100-year storm, there's a smaller basin here that gets a little bit of overflow. Otherwise, as I mentioned, a lot of BMPs on the site throughout this whole system here. We do also have some water quality units, storm scepter vortechnic type units, as well as what we call the jellyfish, which are like a filter media type unit to get rid of suspended solids. We've met and exceeded that standard as we did for the mill facility. Otherwise, your typical utilities around the site, parking, supporting items like that. There is a fire tank that would be located for fire suppression for the warehouse building up towards the front. I won't get into the details again about the stormwater, but it is the same conversation that's being had with engineering department. We've treated the whole project pretty much as a whole in regards to stormwater. So we are in the same impasse with the engineering department regarding recharge. Overall property was required at 65% for a new development. We've done 47%, but we've met and exceeded every other one of the standards, especially water quality. And then, as I mentioned before, vast improvement upon the existing conditions. This lot has, I don't have the exact number, just by, you can just see visually, the entire property right now is paved. This adds a ton more green space, open area infiltration systems, and then landscaping throughout the property. So big improvement there, big improvement with water quality, a lot more infiltration since there's none out there right now. So overall, big improvement. So same scenario right now with the engineering department. There's a couple other minor comments that we're working through with them in regards to traffic and sight lines. But from the whole operation and maintenance, stormwater management, we're generally there, other than the recharge component for standard 3. You know, we feel we've met standard 7 to the maximum extent practical. Same site constraints here. Groundwater, Groundwater's high out towards the back. It is good up towards the front here, which we provided that large infiltration system, but backside here, I'll get to that image again. There are existing buildings that we can't test under, but knowing what we've tested in these purple areas to the side here from borings, additional borings that were also done, high groundwater out towards the back. You're being impacted by that wetland on the backside there. Good soils up towards Shawshing Street here. Our thought in looking at old historic maps, as I mentioned, this was all existing. This was all wetlands that was filled in. So good soil, good separation from groundwater, bad soil, D-class soils, high groundwater, not able to infiltrate. The red area in the back here, that's that AU well. So we can add fill to it, but we can't really remove any of that, and we definitely can't infiltrate stormwater in that area. And we'd really like to stay away from infiltrating around that area as well. So focus all of our infiltration out towards the front, and that also just provides a better screen, right, to Shawshing Street, so it adds some more greenery up towards the development. So. Otherwise, same site restrictions. You have a number of easements and utilities out towards the front as well, but for the most part, everything to the maximum extent. That's about all I have.
Not super wetlands related, but viewing Google Maps Street View, and somewhere between the entrances of the parking lots, there's a house or a building there. Is that staying or is that being torn down?
The existing houses are these three here. Those are all being removed.
All right.
Yep.
That's the current actual H&B office. They work out of those there.
That's where I go every day.
Yeah, all right. That's all right.
So I guess I'm gone.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments? Seems pretty straightforward. Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
Pretty much similar to what I said for the previous project. So again, in regard to the impasse between the engineering department and the applicant, I maintain the same position that, the commission would have a reasonable interpretation that the applicant has presented an argument where they've met the mass stormwater standards to the maximum extent practicable. Aside from stormwater, the previous project basically captures all perimeter sediment controls that would intercept any flow to wetlands that actually could be affected. The buffer zone extending onto this project primarily is from wetlands across railroad tracks, so you already have a natural barrier that's going to prevent any sediment from getting over there. So aside from that, the conditions I would suggest that the commission apply to an order of conditions approving this notice of intent would be the Concom to receive and approve SWIP prior to construction. Copies of any reporting required under the SWIP shall also be provided to the Conservation Commission. In addition, standard conditions number 1 through number 4 and number 9 through number 19.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I will open it up to the public. If there's anybody in the public who would like to make a comment, now's the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, stand up. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to approve this notice of intent, DEP file number 305-1182, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give it a few seconds.
Aye.
That's not our easel. Very similar. All right. Agenda item L, enforcement order, 165 Assel Street, assessors map 10, lot 30. Joe, do you have an update for this?
Yep. So the update is that they've engaged a consultant to help them prepare a restoration plan. I'll be meeting with the consultant later this week to kind of just discuss the delineation and what should be expected and stuff, so that's it.
All right. Any discussion on that from the commission? All right. Agenda item M, enforcement order 765 Whipple Road, Assessors Map 31, Lot 57. Joe, do you have any updates on that?
The only updates is that I keep reaching out, I don't hear anything. And I'm in ongoing discussions with town council about, enforcement operations and what to do and how to do it for cases where we don't get the compliance that we want in an appropriate time frame.
Didn't they have a consultant, Joe, that came here?
They had someone come in, a wetland consultant, I think back in November or maybe early December, that said, hey, we're working with them. Like, they wanted to push off a meeting and the commission was okay with that, but it's been like 2 meetings maybe that they pushed off, so.
Okay.
But basically, we're looking into alternative methods.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Any further discussion? Not seeing anybody. Agenda item N, regulations discussion.
Yeah, so this is just a discussion on, so lately the commission's kind of been dealing with perennial stream versus intermittent stream and addressing what the regulations say. So there's always the option to include something in our own bylaw that gives a little bit more guidance on what to consider for perennial versus intermittent. So just something to consider if the commission's interested in that, as this was suggested by Linda, and I think it's a good idea. So just to provide additional clarity.
Well, the photos that they could bring for 20 years ago just don't work.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm super glad you put it on there, is I think we need to have photos and this thing within 24 months or 18 months.
I would say even 12 months.
Well, the problem is it takes so long, if you look at the regulation of, it's over 12 months or...
Because Joe sent us a really good description of what an intermittent stream is, and it said you have to have 4 pictures in a 12-month period. So if we had if we said it has to be 4 pictures within the last 12 months, we would keep up with what's happening to the climate, and we would be able to stay on top of that.
It's consecutive days, yeah.
It's 4 consecutive days within any 12-month period.
12-month period.
Yeah.
But
so it would be consistent if we said 12, it has to be within the last 12 months. 4 consecutive days within the last 12 months.
We have a rainy season or a dry season.
Unless it's a drought, and I would say unless it's a drought, keep that in.
And that's why I went to say 24 months, because it's...
I would, lean giving a little bit extra.
It would be like 5 years if you're going to do something, because...
I think 5?
The regulations don't change that quick for anything.
No, they don't, but we have an opportunity to keep up with what's going on.
I think 5 years
Last year was the hottest year that we have ever had in the history of man, and this year is on track already to be the hottest January. Our climate is changing, and if we can put in something like 12 months or 24 months, we can keep up with what's going on.
And if we're going to that extent, you would want them to factor in climate change to a degree with all their stormwater design and modeling.
Yeah,
that would be
yes.
more pertinent.
What's
an intermittent versus a...
I'm trying to add some common sense to photos when somebody comes up and say, hey, these were taken 17 years ago, and you shall issue.
And it's also inconsistent. Like right now, it's inconsistent. We had someone with pictures from 2015, someone from pictures with from 2017.
Linda,
it's like,
what's your concern about? You're saying the last 12 months. I guess my concern is if we say the last 12 months, what is that based on from the time they apply, from the time of the meeting, and is that a moving range? So if somebody has pictures from exactly 12 months ago, would 2 of them not be in date anymore if it continues on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to be, keep this moving,
I think it would be from date of
consistently.
application.
Because, think, if they can't, if the stream has not been dry for 4 consecutive days in the last 12 months, why would you say it's intermittent? It doesn't seem like that is intermittent. It seems like if you want to call it intermittent, it has to have dried up within the last 12 months, unless we're in a drought. Which
I agree that the Mass 310 CMR 10 fails to, you can literally provide pictures from 2001.
Right.
And say, yes, this is printed.
It fails to, in my opinion, fails to address the current climate change.
Yeah.
And we're not treating everyone fairly. We're not, we're letting some people come in with 10-year-old pictures, some people with 5-year-old pictures. We need to be consistent.
I mean, we're not going to solve climate change.
No, but we can address how it affects what the decisions we make.
I think 12 months is a little short, but Evan, you were saying 5 years?
Is pertinent. Because I think the hard part too is it went to the Concom in Tewksbury at the time. They voted that it was intermittent. And I've kind of said it with how we delineate wetlands too. Records just don't get updated in the right spot they should be, which is one of those issues that causes issues in the future too. Like, they voted that as intermittent. That was one of my big reasons why I went with intermittent on that one. If there was no vote and they just brought pictures and said, here's 4 dry pictures I found in my basement, that wouldn't do anything for me. But
we're talking the Highwood property specifically on that one, that it was already voted intermittent.
Yeah.
Right. Correct. The other one, we're looking at photos.
Correct. That's why I wasn't on that one. I wasn't for.
Right. I think we need to establish something that we're all. Yes. What do you think? 36. Because from the start of a project.
Recent memory.
Right. But from the start of a project, it can take them a year and a half just to figure out what they're going to do with the property.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's one of those situations where, if, say, you do an ANRAD first, and that's when you document, and then you go for the NOI. Right. Does that ANRAD count, or now do you have to redefine it again?
Right.
Because it's not documented. And that's why is 5 years the right time? Just because you could go through that process, wait a year to figure out development, and then go through it. And now all that work you did 3 years ago is worthless?
No, you want to be fair, but you do want to establish a standard for us.
Correct. Agreed.
And
so could we go somewhere in the middle? Could we go 3 years? Would that be?
You can do something like 3 years without any prior judgment from Tewksbury Conservation Commission, and then have pretty much a subset of rules if it was agreed upon but never documented. That you can go back 10 years or something.
So what do you mean by prior judgment though?
Because it went in front of Concom before and it was voted as intermittent at that time.
But the Concom in 2005 could say, yes, this is intermittent, but now, I guess the whole point.
But then you can say 36 months without any prior, and then you could go back and say 10 years if there's prior agreement. You can go back 10 years or something like that to look at what was agreed upon. What I agreed upon in 2019 should hold validity for some point in time, because we all heard the information at the point in time. And why is that bad in 2 years?
But
in 2 years, no.
5 years?
But exactly. So I don't find it
Also, I think this is such a small issue compared to, if we're worried about climate change, utilizing Atlas 14 and factoring climate change within stormwater design is would have a way bigger impact than this.
But that's part of the new revisions to Mass Stormwater Standards.
That are out right now?
They're out for public comment.
Out for public comment, yeah. So I was going to say Atlas 14 already has issues right now. The EPA took down their tool for climate.
But I think things are slowly catching up.
Yes.
I mean, this is government.
But so
that's all I gotta
as far
say
as the
about that,
stormwater standards and stormwater, because I do agree that would have a much larger impact.
Impact, right.
Mass DEP, within the last week or two, them revising the stormwater standards has been a thing that we've been waiting on, and they've just finished them, and now they're out for public comment. So there is some progress there.
How long were they working on them before?
I don't know.
102 years.
Yeah. But it does reference your point as far as improves what applicants reference as a more accurate, like precipitation handling and 90% TSS instead of 80% TSS removal. So there's a lot of benefits to that. I would defer to the state regulations once that's implemented.
I mean, this might not be the biggest thing that we can do, but it's something we can easily do.
And I think it makes our jobs easier
Well, it's
by
something,
saying.
for me personally, you can't show me pictures of 10 years ago and say, I mean, it just, it doesn't work.
And if we were on the board 20 years ago, would we be saying, you can't show me pictures from 3 years ago? Because that's how I feel right now, is that like, yo, it's 2024, 3 years ago, things were already different. Like, it's weird.
But all we can do is go forward.
Yeah.
And like, to your point, Evan, is, no, we're not gonna restructure something that was already approved, or, because it wouldn't come before us. Would it?
Well, it just did. Because it was never updated by the state.
But a project was never, it was never built on it. So the construction never started on that.
So anything done with ANRADs and things, we wouldn't count. It would only be NOIs or RDAs. Where
correct. That's where, because that thing was voted a intermittent stream, but there was no construction that ever started.
But why does that impact whether it's intermittent or perennial?
Well, because they come back to us and said, we're going to do this, but it's already this. And we get pictures from 12 years ago. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get us to a point where you look at something and say, okay, hey, we've had, last year it was Noah's Ark in, you know, let's go in the recent future, you know, recent past, not.
I would keep the regulations in the 310 CMR 10 for like how to overcome the presumption of perennial stream as they are, except for the photographs, and I'd probably say like 2 or 3 years.
That's where we're thinking. I know Linda said the same thing. Is something that's reasonable.
I mean, I think that's better.
It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. We're never going to get perfect, but
at least we have a standard.
Right. We can say, well, we look at your, and it's. I just hate that shall issue portion.
Yeah.
That just doesn't sit well with me, because eventually it comes down to us. Yep. And we have to issue, even if you've got photos, you know, from a dog's age. So I like 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards 3 years. What about for drought years? How would we?
So that's what I'm saying. Like all the provisions of that regulation would remain the same. So during a non-drought period, when there are non-obstructed flows, like so no beaver dams.
We're just giving us a lack of a better term, a get out of jail free card. We can say, look, you got to produce this document within this time frame. And we're not going to change. We're not going to try and change the DEP. We're just going to add a little bit to us.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yes, I like that. Yes. Yeah.
All right. I guess, can you draft up a?
I knew it was going to go to Joe.
Yeah, so I can definitely do that. I would say we would probably want, so I can do that and try to get it on for the next meeting or the 1st in February. We would want to prioritize just getting through this town meeting for the bylaw and the regulation change, and then adding it to that afterwards.
Because we've already voted for conditional approval of the regulations. If the bylaw updates, am I remembering?
I think we could just approve of a regulation that specifically addresses it and then combine it afterwards too. While we're on the topic of just regulations, I would also want to maybe address like redevelopment for us as well. Like for the 25-foot no disturb, that's just something in our bylaw that we can actually dig our heels into, where it's just like, okay, this is we protect the 25-foot no disturb zone. So for redevelopment, I feel like they should try to meet everything to the, up to the standard with certain like plantings and stuff like that. So as of right now, we don't have any redevelopment clause. So I think that would just be helpful for applicants and for homeowners too, because a lot of, the no disturb zone was passed after most of Tewksbury was developed, so I don't know, just something to that effect of redevelopment standards for 25-foot no disturb zone. So I can draft something up on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before we adjourn, agenda item D was tabled.
Yes.
I'll open that up again. Request to extend an order of conditions. Robert Mercurio, 32 Moonlight Drive, Assessors Map 110, Lot 32, DEP file number 305-1125. It's an order of condition. It's to extend an order of conditions. They haven't done any work on it. Joe, do you have any updates? I'm comfortable, extending it, but if we want to continue.
I would just like to ask him why he hasn't started the work and when the work's starting, because the letter, I'm not sure if he wrote that, the narrative description, you wrote that, but there's literally nothing to it.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
bare
write that.
bones.
Then yeah, I would like to ask him a question.
Yeah, they haven't put up any erosion controls or anything yet, have they?
No,
No.
they haven't.
I think he needs to visit.
Okay.
That's my only concern with continuing this for so many years is those erosion controls are not meant to last for years and years and years.
Yeah,
But if
I
they
did a
haven't
site
even
visit
started
today.
yet,
I did a site visit today to make sure at least like the boundaries were fine, and so it looks like a clearly defined TOA slope, wetland, stream thing he's got going on. His order does expire on February 9th, 2024, so pushing it to the next meeting wouldn't be a huge deal. Just because if we were to approve it, he would at least, he would be able to get it out.
Well, he's applied for the extension within the 30 days.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, even if we go beyond that, that's fine. All right, so in that case, could I have a motion to continue the request to extend an order of conditions, DEP file number 305-1125, to the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And old business, new business, admin reports, anything? And then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next meeting is January 24th.